I have a beautiful job now that is what I love doing, but it's not easy. Like it's stressful and but a stress that I love.
What did that first few months of transition look like for you?
It's scary, man. My heart really wanted to be in the coaching, but my head said, no, you go down the commercial path. I know I'm not ready, but I will promise you I won't let you down.
A lot of us athletes, while we're playing, romanticize the idea of remaining in sport. What does it really look like?
People that are involved in sport is because they love sport and they love what it gives them. And the people in the corporate world can't get what we get in sport. Yeah, I'm a competitor and I love competing, and
Yeah.
going into the business side of things, it's all just a big competition for me.
So, Mr. Boucher, tell me about the NBA Finals, mate.
Yeah,
Did you see that coming?
I didn't, to be fair. I actually thought the Spurs would get it done. And it's funny, my son wanted to have a friendly bet with me. And he said, oh, I got the Spurs, so you have to take the Knicks. And I was like, no, I'm not taking that bet. And I
Yeah.
wish I had now. I'd be $20 richer. But no, I certainly didn't see it coming. But I think it's good for the NBA. I think either team that was going to win was going to be good for the NBA. But New York being, obviously a main city in the US is great for basketball. And, like to have the whole of New York caring about the sport is pretty cool. Aside from the negative stuff that happened in the media with them leading into that win, I think, ultimately having New York back as one of the top NBA teams is a good thing for basketball.
Crazy, eh? They call it the Mecca.
Yeah.
And
For a
what was
reason.
it?
Yeah.
Crazy, man. So you would look at it, I'm sure, through a different lens, right? You've been there on the field. You've spilt blood and sweat out there on the court. Sorry, I'm a rugby player. You can tell. Uh, and so when you watch that finals, what do you put it down to? Was it experience on the next team that took it away? Was it clutch moments? Like,
I think, when you get to playoffs, it's a lot more physical in the playoffs. The
mm,
referees let the players decide essentially. So there's a lot more holding, grabbing. So you have to be physically tough.
mm,
And I think with the Knicks players, they were incredibly physically strong and battle hardened and ready for that playoff series. The Spurs were probably, you could argue, more talented. I don't know about more talented, but certainly had a lot of talent, but a lot of young
mm,
guys that maybe hadn't experienced that step up in physicality and pressure.
yeah, yeah,
And it's not till you're in those situations you realize how much pressure can affect you as a player. And when you go into those moments for the first time, and a lot of these guys, it was their first time in the playoffs, it's a different level. And again, they were a couple of mistakes away from this being a totally different result. So, they actually blew two of those games, and you could probably argue the third as well. So they arguably could be NBA champions right now if they'd just done a couple of things different in those
yeah,
games. And that's what it comes down to, is a couple of possessions here and there.
yeah, yeah. Certainly talented enough, eh?
Yeah.
Far out. Mate, I was looking back through a little bit of your career. Sorry to make you blush, but 9 New Zealand NBL titles, 4 Australian NBL titles, plus a bunch of MVP awards. You came fourth in the 2002 FIBA World Championships. Did you have a did you have a series like or a tournament like the Spurs have just been in where you feel like you let one get away?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was our second championship, I think it was. May have even been the first, may have been the first championship. We were up in Cairns and we were up three with like minimal amount of time to go against the Cairns Taipans. And in a basketball game, you have a choice. You foul and they go and make two free throws and you're still winning by one. So you're in
Yeah,
the driver's seat, but you risk missing the second free throw and them getting the rebound, kicking out, and hitting a three and losing. So usually in a game, leading into a game, you have a really clear choice of, do we foul or do we allow them to try and take a contested 3-point shot and hope they miss and you end up winning by three? Well, in
mm,
this case, we chose to play our defense, and Ron Dorsey, I remember, had like a bloody deep NBA three to
yeah,
to put the game into overtime, and we ended up losing in that game, and it came back to game three at home, which we ended up winning. But those moments, and then after that moment, we changed, and then we said, okay, if we're ever in the situation again, we're going to foul, we're going to back our rebounders to get the ball after a free throw. So it's amazing. Just we stuck to the game plan, and it just didn't work, and that's just sometimes those things happen.
yeah, crazy man. Do you still love watching basketball, by the way? Like when you
I
turn on
do.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a lifer, much to my wife's probably disgust that, like I enjoy watching basketball and I enjoy watching all levels of basketball. Like
Yeah.
I still enjoy going and watching, my kids playing basketball or, high school level basketball. To me, I'm a bit of a purist and love the game. So I don't watch much NBA to be fair. Like in the
Yeah.
playoffs, I think I've watched two quarters.
Wow.
That's because this thing called work gets in the way of
Yeah.
things. So I don't get to watch as much as I would like to watch. But certainly the moments where I get to sit down and just watch a game and enjoy it just for the spectacle that it is always enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome, man. So tell me about work, man. You play basketball professionally for like 15 years? A little
Yeah,
bit more?
probably. I mean, semi-prof. If you call it New Zealand NBL professional, which it is, it's a semi-professional league. I guess I played from the age of 17 till I was 42. So yeah, a long
Oh,
time.
bro.
Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
a
So like,
long time as a pro and a lot of that time semi-professional. But yeah, man, it was a dream job, really.
yeah,
Like as a kid, I I didn't grow up wanting to be a professional basketball player. I grew up just loving sport, and
yeah,
as I got older, I realized this could be a possibility. And and kind of like I say, started as a 17-year-old playing for Auckland, and yeah, and the rest is kind of history from there.
well, so cool, man. So take me back to your last game, mate. Can you remember it? Did you know it would be your last game at the time?
Yeah, I did. I remember it, and I knew it was my last. To be honest, I was 42, and it's pretty old to be still running around a basketball court.
Wow,
And
man.
but I still. Only reason I retired is I just couldn't put enough. I didn't have enough time in the day to put into the training that was required to be at that level, and
Yeah.
my body still was fine. Like I finished my last game, and I didn't put one single bit of ice on my body. Like I was good. Like I was like,
Wow.
I'm actually sweet.
That's awesome.
And I'm 50, nearly 51 now, and I'm still running around playing and, still enjoy it.
Yeah.
I have a few more niggly injuries now because of sitting behind a desk all day doesn't help. But at
Yeah.
the time when I was still playing and training every day, like it's still, my body was able to hold in there, and it's really enjoyable. So no, I do remember, I don't remember the whole game, but I remember retiring, and, it was an enjoyable game, but it wasn't a great season for us, so we didn't finish on a high. But aside from that, I mean, that was in the New Zealand NBL, the Sales NBL, and when I retired at the Breakers, I think I was 37, 38, and I finished on a three-peat championship. So you can't get
Yeah.
much better than that, cutting down the nets in your last ever game and
Yeah.
as a full professional.
Yeah. Amazing career. I was gonna say, how do you jump at 42? But apparently you weren't much of a jumper, mate, they say.
I wasn't. I mean, I wouldn't say, definitely at the end of my career, I was definitely could not jump. When I was younger, I could jump all right. Like
Okay.
I could easily get up and dunk on people and, things like that. But people remember you when you finish playing and they don't
True.
remember you when you were younger. Like when I was 17, 18, I could windmill dunk and I could
Whoa.
do all
Yeah.
of that. So
Yeah.
I wasn't like, I was better than your average athlete, but I certainly wasn't like the kids these days can really fly. I definitely couldn't fly like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I would get dunks in games and stuff like that when I was younger and maybe a little bit when I was older, but certainly not at the end of my career. I wasn't dunking at all in games. I had a thing when I finished playing, when I play social league, I'd always do one dunk in the warm-ups to just remind myself that I could still
You
dunk.
can still do it. You
And
still
I
got it.
safely do not do that now because I'm too scared that there's some injury is going to happen
I know.
trying to do that, and I don't want to get injured in warm-ups. So I definitely don't do that now.
I know, man. I'm an ex-rugby player, 34, so I'm not even that old. But mate, I can't imagine jumping. I can't jump anymore.
It's sad, isn't it?
I
It's
gotta be
sad, the
careful.
deterioration. You have no
Yeah.
muscles anymore. That's what I always say to people. Like, you've gone from, not I was not this muscular guy, but I had muscles that were functional. Now
Yeah.
I have muscles that sit and type on a keyboard all day. That's it. Like it's hard to keep that muscle mass that is able to be functional for you.
It's true. It's so true. Mate, tell me about work. So tell me about like what it looked like when you finally called it a day and hung up the sneakers. What
Yeah,
did what did that first few months of transition look like for you?
it's scary, man. Like it's
Mm.
really like when you actually say the words "I'm going to retire," and then you start like, man, like this is scary, the big wide world out there. So I guess backtrack a little bit. So probably 2 years, 2 to 3 years towards my last kind of contract. I guess my last contract's probably like a 2 year contract with the Breakers. And I kind of said this would be my last contract and kind of already earmarked that it would potentially be my last contract.
Mhm.
And at the time, they were probably struggling a little bit selling corporate hospitality and sponsorship and stuff. And I'd been around the team for a long time, had quite a big network of people, and they came to me and kind of said, "All right, well, if you are going to retire at the end of this period, like, what do you want to do? Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? Do you see yourself one day potentially being the head coach of the Breakers, or do
Yeah.
you see yourself potentially being the GM of the Breakers one day?" And I went home and I thought about it, and I thought long and hard, and I was like, I got 4 children, and trying to make it as a head coach is going to be really hard. You're going to have to go outside of the Breakers organization to start with
Yeah.
to try and ply your trade, which means taking the family around the world, to jobs around the world, because there's really only one job in New Zealand that pays enough to live on, and that's the
Yeah.
Breakers head coaching role. Or I go down the path of trying to become the GM of the Breakers one day, and those skills are transferable to other sports and other roles.
Mm.
So my heart really wanted to be in the coaching, but my head said, no, you go down the commercial path and,
Yeah.
and start thinking about, your family and not traveling and have a job that is transferable. So if you're not involved in basketball in 5 years' time and you're involved in rugby or cricket, whatever it may be, or,
True.
or just in the corporate world, there's plenty of jobs out there. So I chose that avenue. So went back and sat with my owner, Paul Blackwell, and kind of talked through my vision of, where I thought I could help the business. And he said, well, and Richard Clark as well, who was our CEO at the time, and they basically sat me down and said, well, why don't you start while you're playing, try and slowly transition yourself into that stuff. So they said, why don't you try and sell some corporate tables for your games? And I was like, all right.
Ah.
And so first year I sold a few tables, and they were like, oh, that's pretty good, like, sweet.
Yeah.
Well, then in my final year, they were like, why don't you try and sell some sponsorship and stuff as well? So it was kind of like I was kind of playing, but had one hand in the other side. And so,
Yeah. Genius.
maybe bought in a little sponsor or something and continued selling corporate tables. And then basically at the end of my career, they were like, well, there's a job here if you want to take it on full time. It'd be great to have an ex-player in the organization. I was really passionate about the brand, and when
Mhm.
I was out selling these things to people, I sold it like because I believed it,
Yeah.
and obviously when I finished, we had just won 3 championships in a row. So it was great timing to be going into talking to people because you're relevant, so you could
Yeah.
get in the door because you were relevant of who you were. So for me, I really milked that for all it was worth, and yeah, ended up going into a role as the corporate sales manager, selling hospitality and courtside seats and sponsorship and things like that, and then slowly worked my way up into becoming the commercial GM, and then in that role for a few years, and then Richard Clark, who was the CEO at the time, was leaving,
Yeah.
or he was the GM, was leaving, and I basically went to the owners and said, I want the job, and they
Cool,
said, you're
man.
not ready, and I said, I know I'm not ready, but I will promise you I won't let you down. And
Oh,
so
awesome.
on Christmas Day, I did Christmas Eve, I did a presentation to them, of what I thought I could do for the Breakers, and they liked what I presented, and basically said, look, we'll put a mentor in place with you, and we believe you can do this. And I'm eternally grateful,
Man.
for them believing in me and giving me that opportunity, because I wouldn't be still sitting in the seat I am now. And
Yeah.
fortunate enough to then leave the Breakers several years later and go on to be the CEO of Basketball New Zealand, and then now full circle and coming back into a slightly different role, but fairly similar role to what I was in previously.
Uh, Mate, that's a really cool story. Really, really cool story. And there's a few names that pop up, like the Blackwells, who I've heard of, a great, great business family, right?
Yeah, just good people too, like
Yeah.
people that trust and believe in people that, they put a lot of trust in me. And, I still feel
Mm.
burdened to this day to do well for them because they believed in me, and I wanted to work extremely hard for them because they'd given me
Yeah.
the opportunity, and I didn't want to let them down. And just like when I was a player, you want to be the best at what you do. And so I worked extremely hard to become the best at what I could do. And, and that's end of the day, you can go home at night and happy that you've put everything you can into your day's work. And
Yeah.
that's that's what athletes bring generally when they go into the workforce. They're competitors, right? So
Yeah.
you put me in a sales job, I'm going to be competitive. I'm going to want to win. I'm going to want to get sales. And so you're driven.
So funny.
And you have a work ethic. That's the other thing that comes
Yeah.
with it. I was used to training every day for a living. So, coming in and working every day is just what you do. And that's how you make a living.
It's so cool. It's funny you mentioned that. There's this theme going on with this podcast series so far that ex-athletes make good salespeople. I don't know
It's
why.
funny that the amount of times I was offered real estate jobs,
Yeah.
politics, because it's like the same thing. And again, if you've done well in sport, you generally have had a microphone put in your face, so you know how to talk, you know how to
Mm,
perform under pressure. You normally have had to talk to fans, so you're used to talking to used to talking to a 5-year-old kid and then a sponsor that's a multi-millionaire. So you
yeah.
walked in every walk of life. You're able to associate with all different walks of life, and I think that's really important when you're in sales, is because you're dealing with so many different levels
Yeah.
of people, and being able to get down to their level or get up to their level is important.
Yeah, that's true. So tell me about the learning curve for you when you stepped into that corporate sales role, even though you're still playing a little bit and training a little bit. What were the first emails like? What were the first pitches like? Was it a
I
harsh learning curve or?
Yeah, I mean, I had no formal skills. So, like,
Yeah.
I was trained as a travel agent back when I was 17, 18. I did a travel course for 1 year, and that's
Whoa.
all my qualifications I had. And before I became a professional, I was actually a travel agent for like 7 years.
Oh, wow.
And so I kind of came through as a travel agent, and then I was in group travel. And the company I worked for, Stars Travel and Stars Sports Tours, had the Sansa contract. So I used to do the All Blacks and the Wallabies and the Springboks travel and all the Super Rugby travel back in the day. So
Mm,
that was my main job. And so I kind of understood sport and
yeah.
business and things like that. So for me, the transition of being in that world didn't daunt me, because I'd kind of lived it when I was younger.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the same time, I was kind of like there were acronyms and stuff I didn't know. I had to Google things. I
Yeah.
felt like a real imposter at times in meetings, where I'd be in these high level meetings and trying to act like I knew what I was doing. I really had no idea.
Yeah.
I would just smile and nod, and and my favorite saying was, "I'll come back to you next week, and I'll have all the answers." And then I'd go back and I'd ask people and I'd Google and I'd be frantically typing away and trying to figure out what these acronyms were, what do they mean, and what do they stand for, and what was I talking about, and
Yeah.
so. But the one thing that I had stronger than anyone, I had a passion for the brand stronger than anybody in the
Yeah. Yeah.
organization, because I'd lived it, breathed it, and to your point earlier, I'd had blood, sweat, and tears have been left out on the court. So I when I was selling, I sold it on passion, as opposed to nowadays it's like, when you're selling things, it's about what reach can you give them, and how big is your database, and those sorts of
Mm,
things. Back in those days, I had none of that, none of those materials. It was all based on why they should put their money into the breakers, and I think I probably did a good job selling it, purely because I believed in the brand, and people felt that passion coming through when I was selling it.
that's funny, man. Like we the job I do, we sell commercial painting. Okay, so we paint big buildings, and we have a joke at our office like, oh, I'm just passionate about painting. You know, it's a little bit. We're taking the
Yeah,
piss a
yeah,
little bit, but
yeah.
it's true. Like half of sales, man, is being passionate about what you're actually providing. Whether that's a product or a
And
service. So that's
there
so
we go.
cool.
How do you expect someone else to believe in your brand if you don't? You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
if you can convince people that this is the greatest move they can make with their, $30,000 or $100,000 or $200,000 or $1 million, you got to convince them and make them believe that that's the best money that they can spend on anything.
yeah,
And if you're not in there making them believe it, then you're sure as heck not going to get a sale out of that.
yeah. Interesting, man. I think a lot of us athletes while we're playing romanticize the idea of remaining in sport and working in sport. But something I wanted to ask you is what does it really look like? Day to day, you've done a few different roles now. You've been the corporate sales manager, the GM, the CEO. What does sport really look like as a business day to day?
It's funny. Someone once said to me, they said, "Don't get out of sport because you'll never go back to sport."
Mm,
Um, and I never really understood it until probably the period between finishing as GM of the Breakers and then eventually becoming CEO of Basketball New Zealand. I kind of went out and did a bunch of consulting and stuff. And even though I did a lot of the consulting I was doing, it was for basketball. There was some roles that I did that were outside of basketball.
mm,
And in sport, the money is not great. Like it's not. When you get to the top, it's decent, but and a lot of times when you're talking to people, when you compare it to corporate salaries, it's night and day. Like,
Yeah.
there's so many people in the corporate world that say, "Now I want to come and work for the Breakers." I'm like, okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
what is your skill set? What can you do? Okay, this is the salary. Oh, I wouldn't work for that. Well, no,
Yeah.
that's right. So with sport, the salaries are not like corporate salaries. You can go and work
Yeah.
as, in finance or something and earn some incredible money. So people that are involved in sport is because they love sport and they love what it gives them. And the people in the corporate world can't get what we get in sport. Like you
Mm-hmm.
can't celebrate a championship when you're working in finance. You just can't.
Yeah, true.
You
True
can't.
that.
Like you can't do that. And you can't ride the wave of the team doing well and not doing well. And this roller coaster ride we go on every week.
Yeah.
As fans, we do it, but it's not the same as being involved in the organization. So
Yeah.
I always say like sport gives you something that other jobs can't give you, and that's
Yeah.
and if unless you're chasing the dollar, then to me that's what it's about. Is about you got something you believe in, and you every week you're doing your role to the best of your ability, so the team can perform on the court. And
Mm.
so for me, that's what it's more about. It's about that team performing on the court, that you're playing a small part. And when you've come from being on the court and you're off the court, you like, how do I impact this organization? How do I
Yeah.
make a difference so these guys have got what they need to be successful on the court? And, how do we have a great game night? And how do we have the best, commercial partners involved with our business so that, that this whole thing as a product is the best that it can possibly be. So when the
Yeah.
fans come into a game, they just have the greatest experience of their life and they leave not caring whether the team won or lost. They care because they've had a great night of basketball.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge now, is being able to make them go on that ride with you. So for me, being involved in sport was, even though I've done different roles within sport, to me, this is my niche. This is where I love being, and I love being in a sport that I can make an impact on
Man.
what I do in the office. That helps what happens on the court.
Bro, thank you for that answer, bro. That's so cool. Like, I think it's important for those of us who are thinking about that just to know where the money kind of sits. Like,
Yeah,
it's got to come down to your love for it, eh? Which you clearly
absolutely.
have.
And you know what? Like, you talk to people that work in sport, and those that are sitting out in the office here. There's some crazy hours they work. They work some
Yeah.
crazy hours, and especially during the season, like the team itself does crazy hours, and the coaches and support staff crazy hours, but so do the staff. Like,
Mm.
we have the staff on game nights that are, they're getting in at 7 in the morning. They don't leave till after midnight. For the
Yeah.
stadium packing it down. Like these are some long days. But I tell you what, when you get the success of the team winning and stuff, it's such a great feeling. Last season we had a little bit of success. We won preseason tournament, and then we won the in-season tournament.
Mm.
Although we didn't make the playoffs, that was for our team that had been working tirelessly behind the scenes to have that moment where they saw the team hold up a trophy and
Yeah.
a big ass check. But everyone shared in that glory because they'd worked so hard for the brand. And like I say, if you were in a regular job, you don't get those highs. You just get to come in and clock in your 9 to 5. And yeah, you've probably got more sociable hours and you probably
Mm.
might even be paid a little bit more, but you don't get that being a part of something bigger than just your job. And that's what this
Yeah.
sport gives you.
You're right there, man. You're right because I've done a few different jobs after retiring from footy, mostly sales jobs, and we're always putting together fake games.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like whether it's amongst the team or whether that's a goal that we set. But like you said, I've won a couple of championships in my time, and there's no other feeling like being out
Absolutely.
there with your teammates,
Yeah.
victorious, exhausted.
But you think back to your preseason and how hard you worked, and
Yeah,
like, to win a championship, everything has to align. You have to have some
yeah,
luck, you have to have some
yep,
skill, you have to have some talent, like it all has to align in the perfect. And this is what's hard, is you have these fans that want to see a team win every year. And you look at other brands and other teams out there, like the Warriors have a great fan base, and they've never won a championship, but everyone's along for the ride because
hmm,
one year they're going to win it. Maybe it's this year. For us, we've won 4 championships, and like, but our fans want more. They want it every
yeah,
year, and it's and
yeah,
it's these are tough leagues that we play in. That
yeah,
every team is trying to win, and every team has a little bit of luck. Some teams have a
yeah,
little bit more money than others.
yeah,
It's always the way, but end of the day, when it comes down to it, if you can have everything aligned perfectly, you put yourself in the best position you can to win a
Yeah.
championship and cut those nets
Yeah.
down, which is the ultimate goal.
Yeah. 100%. I just want to say as well, when I was younger, I was um, I was falling in love with a girl, and I said to my sister, "What should I do for a date night?" And she said, "Take her to the Breakers." And it was like the best date night, eh? Because you've got something awesome to watch. And you know, the great thing about basketball, it's different to rugby in a sense that I think the show doesn't stop.
Yep.
You know, halftime's a show.
Yep.
In between the timeouts, there's something going on. It's just really cool atmosphere at a basketball game.
Yep.
Um, Compared to, a New Zealand rugby game, there's moments of us waiting for a scrum to reset, you know?
Yep. Yep. For sure. We need your sister on our payroll. If she's telling you that, that's great advice.
May was great advice. I'm married to the girl,
Oh, there you
and
go.
we got
Have
two
you been
daughters.
back to a game mode?
Yeah, well, look, I've got two young daughters now, and I've got another daughter on the way, man. So
Awesome.
I'm very time poor.
Congratulations.
I'm very time poor.
Yeah.
But yeah, now,
Money poor.
yeah, a little bit, man, a little bit. What's the makeup of your four kids, by the way?
I've got one boy. Boy's the oldest, and then three girls. I had so my kids are 25, 22, and my twins have just turned 16.
Oh,
So I had twins. I went for three and got three and four. So
wow.
bit of a game changer, but wouldn't change it for the world now, obviously. But
Yeah,
at the time, it was a bit of a shock when you're going for three, and you need a bigger house, bigger car. It's a bit of a shock.
yeah.
Four
And
kids, but three girls.
wow, you would have still been playing when the twins came along, eh?
Yeah, yeah. So still playing. So all my kids have got to see me play.
Yeah,
The younger ones were quite young, so not there. They probably don't remember me, especially not playing for the Breakers.
yeah,
It's funny when my older kids had kind of been through it when they were young. I was still playing, so like for them having a dad who was a professional basketball player on TV every week, it's just part of what they went through. But my twins, because they were younger, they didn't really see it. And then when they go to school now, or someone will go, "Oh, is your dad? Did your dad used to play for the Breakers?" And they kind of buzz out that someone knows who their dad is. That's
yeah,
like
yeah,
because let's face it, the older you get, you just fade into the distance, and no one
yeah.
remembers who you are. So
Okay.
like, and that happens really quickly. And that's probably the
Mm,
hardest thing when you're an athlete, you become relevant and you retire and you're irrelevant immediately. Like, and then
yeah,
in a few years, you're 100% are irrelevant. And especially
yeah,
if you don't stay in the sport, you just fade away. And so many people, you're like, "Oh, what's that guy doing now?" And because you just don't see or hear of them, and it's so
yeah,
and that's hard because when you've been possibly, like you've been possibly a well-known figure or whatever, you still might go to the dairy or the supermarket and someone might recognize you and you kind of feel, oh, and someone still knows who I am, but you become irrelevant real quick. I promise
Whoa.
you. Yeah.
It's amazing to hear you say that, man, because I think a lot of people listening would be like, Dillon Boucher left such a great legacy at not just the Breakers, but all the clubs you played at. But even you felt a sense of irrelevancy eventually, and like that purpose has maybe faded, or
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a common one. So for example, I had a sponsor that had been with me like 15 years, and the moment I retired, they said, "Oh, sorry, we can't sponsor you anymore." And I was kind of
oh,
like, "Are you serious?"
yeah,
But
yeah,
I wasn't relevant anymore. So why would they sponsor a guy who's retired? So all of that stuff, and then
mm,
all of a sudden it's gone from, now you used to get this for free and now you don't get it anymore, but you don't think about that. You just think
yeah,
that that's going to continue forever. And like your people now don't care about you as much as they did before when you're an athlete. And that's the harsh reality. But
yeah,
that's just sport, and that's the world we live in. And you can't be relevant forever. And to be
yeah,
honest, basketball, I was fortunate enough to come through a real, I guess, real golden era of basketball where people actually followed it. There were many greats that went before me that
mm,
probably are even less relevant to this day, but probably did arguably as much, if not more, for the sport. But
interesting,
if you're
yeah,
not in the sport, you don't know about these people because it wasn't on
mm,
TV as much as what it is now, and those sorts of things. And just like the guys that came after me and will continue to come after me, there's so much more exposure through television and internet and social media. Now people are, like my kids know people in basketball because of TikTok, not because of basketball, like so
yeah,
whereas that stuff wasn't around when we were playing. So that now you can become even more relevant because of social media. And it might be from something great you've done or a mistake you've done or a bit
Yeah.
of both, you know.
Yeah, yeah. It's such a great game, and it's growing like massively in New Zealand, eh?
Crazy.
Faster than most sports, a lot faster than rugby. I think
Yeah,
rugby might be going the other way.
it really is, you know.
Yeah,
And again, we've, especially with the concussions and,
yeah,
the neck injuries and stuff like that. I mean, we've so many kids that I talk to and their parents are like, I told them they weren't allowed to play rugby.
yeah.
We're like, great for our sport, but it's like, like
Oh,
it's a harsh reality.
you can understand it, right? Especially,
Yeah.
I was really lucky, eh? I only had one bad concussion. It wasn't even that bad. I was playing in Italy, and there was about 10 minutes left in the game, and I just remember trying to run out of the line and put on a big tackle. And the next thing I remember is shaking hands with the other team and saying, bravo, bravo, bravo. And I'm a little bit lost. I'm like, hang on, how'd the game finish? I didn't know if we won or lost. It was a close game.
Well,
And obviously got checked, sat on the bus, looked after for the next few days. But when I went back and watched the film, I was on autopilot for the last 10 minutes of the game. So
that's crazy.
I was jogging around. I didn't touch the ball. I didn't even make a tackle, I don't think. I was going from rack to rack. But, in the outskirts of Italy where they play rugby, like no one noticed that the score wasn't right. And the great thing about rugby, like I said before, we reset the scrum about 12 times. So, so I didn't get any, long-term damage. But yeah, it's crazy. So I coach rugby now but I can totally understand if I was watching, a couple of 5-year-olds go at it, or let's say 7 or 8-year-olds, and they're coming off the field with a head knock. It's a big question mark
Mhm.
for parents now, especially understanding what we know now, what it can do. So
Oh, and you're seeing so many, unfortunately, you're seeing so many cases of ex-players with, like illnesses because of head knocks and things. I mean, you know, in basketball, I had a lot of head knocks as well. Like,
yeah,
got, scars all over my head from being hit in different places and
yeah,
elbows. And so it can happen in other sports too. We just don't have that hard collision that you see in rugby and rugby league. That's the
yeah,
difference. Your heads aren't clashing at two guys hitting at full speed, those sorts of things. You'll get the odd elbow or something,
mm,
or occasionally you get heads clashing in basketball. It doesn't happen very often, but
mm,
it does happen.
yeah,
Like these scars on my face are not from anything other than basketball, so you do
yeah,
end up, there's a lot of sharp elbows out there that can
yeah.
hit.
The elbows, brutal.
Yeah, and it's coming down from rebounds normally when you get them.
Yeah,
So you're looking up at the ball and a guy's jumped above you and you're watching them come down, and sometimes they'll just flail their elbow out and it'll
oh,
catch
bro,
you on the eye or across the chin or something as you're coming down. And when your whole face is exposed looking up, it's pretty easy
yeah,
to happen.
yeah, brutal.
Mm.
It's always my excuse at work. Like I said, I was really lucky, but I didn't have many concussions. But when I do get something wrong at work, I just say, "Hey, sorry, guys." It's
Easy excuse.
yeah, yeah, easy man. So, hey, Dylan, let me know and don't be humble. What do you think it is about you as a player that has allowed you to transition into the administration side of sports so well?
Honestly, think it's competitiveness. I think one of my strengths as a player was I was a competitor.
Yeah.
And some would say I get competitive over board games and stuff. I don't think I do, but apparently I do. But yeah, I'm a competitor and I love competing. And
Yeah.
going into the business side of things, it's all just a big competition for me. How
Hmm.
how can I compete and do the best I can? And I want to be the best at what I do. So every day I come to work, at the moment I'm recruiting players and coaches. I want to recruit the best players, the best
Yeah.
coaches. I'm not always fortunate enough to do that, but it's my, it's my pride and my own personal brand that I do the best for the breakers
Mm.
because that's my job. And my job is to do the best for the team, not only because I get paid to do that, but because my name is associated with the team. So I
Yeah.
want them to be the best. So, and don't get me wrong, when the team wins, if we go and win the championship this coming year, I don't want my name in lights at all. I just want to know
Yeah.
that I played a part in that team and did my role for that team to be successful. I don't need to
Yeah. I
be,
get it.
I don't need to see the paper going, Dylan recruited a great team. It's like, no, it's like it's there once the team's together. That's the team's job to perform.
Yeah.
And I'll make sure everything around them is, to allow that to the best of their abilities. But I don't need a pat on the back. It's enough for me to know I played a small part in that team succeeding. And so I
Yeah.
think for me, that's that competitiveness that I had when I was a player, that I still have that fire burning inside me every day, wanting to be the best that I can possibly be. And you know what? There's probably in the world, there's probably far more skilled people in the role that I do.
Hmm.
But for me, I'm always like, yeah, but if I'm a competitor and I work really hard at what I do, I can overcome maybe my deficiencies and other things
Yeah.
that can allow me to be the best at what I do. And some people might, be able to add up a math equation better than me, but you know what? I've got AI and I've got a calculator and I can do that just as quick now and make up for those deficiencies that maybe I've got.
Yeah.
So I don't let anything hold me back and I don't make excuses. I just get along with it and get on with it and do it.
That's cool, man. You mentioned it before as well, the passion. Like you can just, I can hear it in the way you speak. You still got it, man, which is
I don't
really
know about
cool.
that.
It's really cool. Did you struggle like going from player to, sales manager and then to GM? Like, have you struggled with that transition? Do you want to jump back into the locker room sometimes and party or?
All the time, man. Like I watch the guys. So we have our officers overlook the training courts, and when I
Yeah.
watch the guys training down there, not that I miss training. To be fair, I miss
Nah.
the games,
Yeah.
and I miss the competing. The other thing is, I talk about competing off the court, but it's not the same as competing on the court. When you walk into a 15,000 seater stadium and everyone's cheering against you, and that's the ultimate when you're going and your back's against the wall and you're trying to come up with a win, and it's just you and your
Mm,
teammates trying to pull together a game plan, to be able to be successful. That's competing, and I miss that. I miss
yeah.
those moments.
Yeah.
But I'm very happily retired. My body's very happily retired from I could never do the things that I used to be able to do now. Absolutely not. But very happy in the workplace. But there's some learnings that you have along the way. Like I'll tell a story when I first went into the GM role, and I thought I was working really hard, and I was. I was the first one at work. I was the last one to leave.
Hmm.
I was constantly in meetings. I was constantly out of the office in meetings, and what I what I forgot to take care of was caring about my team. So I was the leader of a team, but I wasn't taking care of my team. I was too worried about bringing in money for the business and having these
Gotcha.
meetings and doing what I thought the business needed. But what my staff and my team needed was me to be present, and I wasn't present for them. And it was
Mm,
my first kind of like review I had with the board, and they'd done a little bit of a asking around how I was going, and all the staff were like, "Oh, we never see him. He's just either in his office with the door closed or he's out of meetings."
mm,
And I was really hurt because when they told me, they fed that back to me. I was
yeah.
like, "And do they not
Brutal.
see how hard I'm working? Like I'm doing this for them?" And that was my
Yeah.
immediate reaction. And then when I actually processed it, I was like, "Huh, they're right though. Like they never get to walk in my office and talk to me because the door's closed." And it's like
Mm,
the door closed in an office means don't come in. So all they're seeing is a door closed, or as I'm on my way out, "Hey guys, just off to a meeting," and shut the door. And then 2 hours later, I come back in, and they don't know where I've been. They don't know what meetings I've been in or what conversations have
yeah.
happened. And they think I'm just out having a long lunch, and it's like, no, actually, I had 3 meetings that of those 2 hours that I was out, but no one
Yeah.
knows that. So,
Yeah.
a few little things were like, you know, when I first come in the office, or if I was first in, when someone would walk in the office, is greeting each person as they come in every morning.
Mm,
"Hey, good morning. How was your weekend? What are you up to? What did you get up to with the kids?" A 1 minute conversation can do a world of good. And then at
mm,
lunchtime, same thing. If you can share your lunch with someone or go into the lunchroom, and we used to have a boardroom and they'd go and have their lunch in there, and I'd never go in. And it wasn't because I didn't want to, it's I couldn't afford half an hour out of my day that I was busy doing other things.
yeah.
Didn't realize that half an hour was actually needed. And
Yeah.
I
Valuable.
have to keep reminding myself all the time to do that. And it's like
Mm,
just keep building those relationships with your team, because now when you need them and you need them to go the extra mile for you, they're there with you. If they
mm,
feel like you're not there with them, they're not willing to put in that work. And that was a really harsh lesson early on.
yeah.
And I still have to check myself at doing that still, because I just get in this head down, bum up, working, focused, and
Yeah.
just trying to get stuff done. And sometimes you don't realize you're isolating everyone else around you. including your own family. Like, you work crazy hours and you think,
Yeah,
oh,
true.
my wife and my kids will understand that I'm working my butt off because I've got this really important job, but they need love too, and they need time, and they need dad around, and they need husband around. So that work-life balance is man, and I still to this day struggle with trying to get that right. There's no easy formula. It's easy to say, oh, your tools down at 5 o'clock and go home.
Mm,
But when your tools down and you get to work and you can't get through the next day because you've left everything from the day
yeah,
before, sometimes this is the world we live in. You're just busy, and
yeah.
so you have to find those moments to connect and reconnect, and they're so important. With to have a functional workplace, is the staff and your teammates essentially now in the office need to know you care about them as well, because you're all going to go to battle together.
100%, man. Well, you touched on so many interesting points. Because you would work weekends, right?
Yeah, yeah, all the time.
So you've got
Yeah,
four
like
kids.
right now, I recruited a coach who's Canadian coach who's been living in Finland and Germany between then. So the time difference now, like they're asleep right now, and
Yeah,
they wake up about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock our time.
yeah,
I have to connect with that coach,
yeah,
and I think I got into work at like 8 o'clock this morning.
yeah,
So my day will finish at 8 p.m. tonight. So
yeah,
I won't be home till probably 8:30 by the time I get home tonight. So knowing I've done that today, tomorrow I need to make sure that I somehow get home at 5 o'clock,
yeah,
and in the off season, I try to get home as much as I can, because during the season we'll have games and we'll have crisis things that come up during the season that you're not expecting. I'm expecting to be home at 5:30 so I can have dinner with the family, and something will come up and I'm like, I
yeah,
can't get home now. So you have all these things, but if you don't find that time with your family now and in the off season, during the season, it just gets away on you and you just don't
yeah.
have time. So it's really important to get that balance. And it's funny because the advice I give to my team or my staff is sometimes I say it and then I go, you should listen to yourself, how you're telling them how to operate. You're
Yeah,
not doing it yourself. So
yeah.
yeah, I have to check myself a lot.
I understand, man. Well, you're so passionate for the brand. You've got so much on your shoulders, really. You got four kids at home. You got a wife as well, and we all know that wife needs a lot of quality time.
Of course.
Um, so practically, what do you do? Like when you're like, oh no, I've actually let this slip a little bit. I need to spend some time with the family. How do you make sure that happens?
You actually have to like, and this is weird because I'm a big diary guy. So everything's in my diary. Like if
Yeah,
it's in my
gotcha.
diary, then it's booked in and you're not in that space. You have to literally book in time for yourself, and it
Yeah,
might be like, you know, block out from 5 till 7 p.m. that you're going to take half an hour to get home, and then you're going to have an hour and a half of uninterrupted time. And
mm,
it's easier said than done, and
hmm,
it's like in the world we live in such a fluid space where it's like, but an agent calls that is a call I've been waiting for because there's a player I'm chasing calls
yeah,
right at that time where you're supposed to be doing family time, and
yeah,
you don't want to miss that call because this is the call you've been waiting for 2 weeks, and it finally happens right when you're about to sit down for dinner or something.
yeah.
It's such a dilemma because if you let it go, maybe you miss an opportunity. So it is,
Huge.
you have to make time, and I'm not good at it. I'll say that openly because if my wife watches this podcast, she'll go, "Hey, you're lying." I'm not good at it. I'm good at times at it, but I'm not consistently
Yeah.
good at it. And it's, whenever I do things where I write down the things I need to work on, it's always that work-life
Mm,
balance. And
mm,
it's really hard. And again, it's that competitor in me that wants to keep pushing. And a lot of times it'll push too far in favor of one thing and not the other.
mm, mm.
And that's always trying to pull it back to so there's an even balance of work and life balance.
Mate, I love this. This is the raw, like the real look at what it's like to work in sport, hey,
Yeah.
post career. I have a rugby mate. He was on the podcast and he went into becoming the manager at Leicester Tigers and then
Yeah.
at Edinburgh Rugby. And he tells a story where he was taking a phone call on Christmas Day because one of the players was stuck at the airport. All this stuff. And he
Yeah.
said, I chose that life. The kids are there opening their presents, young kids at the time, but I chose that life. I had to take that call. And I was like, wow, that's
Yeah.
the reality of it, eh?
It is, and that's again, that's the thing with sport is not. It's not a 9 to 5 job. You don't just go 5 o'clock. No one can get hold of me, and especially in some roles you can.
Mm,
Certainly not in the roles where, like you say, I don't answer my phone, and all of a sudden I've got a player I've had a player arrested, and
Oh,
they're
well.
call me for help, and I don't answer my phone, and it's
Yeah.
like they
Yeah.
need me at that time, and I'm not there, and it can be bad news, or
Yeah.
a player's, something's needed. They might have missed a flight, or need a new one booked, or whatever it may be, and it won't necessarily be me doing the work per se.
Mm, mm.
They need to get through to me so I can then work in the background of what actually needs to happen and
Yeah.
make the right decisions for that to come to fruition.
Yeah. Whoa. I can only imagine, man.
Like so many people, and it's funny, so many people say to me, so during the season, what do you actually do? Like you nothing to
Yeah.
do, And I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I wish that was so true. Or
Yeah.
like every week or every day a new curveball comes of something,
Yeah.
something. It might not be a crisis, but it's there's so many moving parts and
Yeah.
basketball. And I was literally talking to a few staff members just before this call saying, man, it's funny, we're in this sport, then you think it's just about winning basketball games, and when the season comes, you don't realize in this off season, like I'm so busy right now and the season doesn't start till the 20th of September, and it's
Yeah.
like, so my off season is incredibly busy,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
it should be like, I should just be putting my feet up at this time because knowing how busy the season's going to be, but
Yeah.
there's so much to do.
Yeah.
And the time just ticks away like that. Like it's
Mm.
bang, it's gone, and the preseason will be upon us very shortly. And like it just happens so quickly.
Yeah. Well, do you think you could see yourself doing this for the rest of your career? Like,
It's funny you say that. Look, when I was at Basketball New Zealand and I was the CEO there, I kind of went to, there were times where I was like, I'd been there 3 years or 3.5 years, I think it was, and I wasn't looking for change, but I was like, okay, so I've been the GM of the Breakers, I've been CEO of Basketball New Zealand. What's next? Like, do I go to
mm,
another sport? Do I try and make the NBA? Like, what is the next step for me? And
mm,
I sat there and thought about it. And I was like, I don't know if there is another step that that I want to go to.
gotcha.
And so when I got the opportunity to come back to the Breakers, and certainly a conversation I had with the owner, Mark Mitchell, was about, what role would I play at the Breakers? Because my ultimate role was being involved in the basketball side of the business, and although I'd come through the commercial side, I was like,
Gotcha.
the basketball side for me is the side that's like the most favorite thing that I do. And so we worked out that we have a CEO now in place that runs the business side, and I
Yeah.
run the basketball side of the business. So I have a beautiful job now that is what I love
Mm,
doing, but it's not easy. Like it's
mm,
stressful, and but a stress that I love. I love the
mm,
stress of putting a team together, finding a new coach, all that stuff that is really exciting. And what we could come last next year, and I've got to do this all again and make us more successful. But ultimately, you want to put the team in place that you believe is capable of winning a championship. And
mm.
I believe we're doing that this year, and that's the most exciting thing there. But as I said earlier, so many things have got to align. Our star player or players could get injured in the
Yeah.
preseason,
Yeah.
before you even start, you're behind the eight ball. And we had a case this year where we had a bunch of injuries all at the same time, and it
Yeah.
basically cost us the season.
Yeah.
But sometimes that happens, and that's just sport. But
Mm,
ultimately, I get to do what I love every day, which is come in and talk hoops and prepare like I say, play a role in this team being the successful it can be. And so that's fun. That's fun to be a part of. And they do say, if you do what you love, it's not working. It's
yeah.
not true. It's 100% working, but it's at least enjoyable work.
Yeah, man.
I'm satisfied in what I do on a daily basis.
Cool, man. Till the wheels fall off, I reckon.
I
Hey?
reckon. Yeah.
How good.
Why not? If someone will keep me on, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's clear to see you've got so much passion for the Breakers, but I've got one more fun question to finish. Let's say you did want to take the step to the NBA. Which team would you want to take over and why?
There's only
Oh,
one team. There's only one team, and it's because of the connection I have to them is Brooklyn Nets with Sean Marks. Sean Marks being a
yeah,
Kiwi,
yeah,
watching one of the brothers going and doing it on the biggest stage in the world is just, he did it as a player and then now as an
mm,
administrator. Like nothing but admiration for that guy and what he's been able to achieve. And to have I don't think, and I've said this many times on different podcasts that I've been on, New Zealanders don't understand how big it is to have a GM of an NBA team from New Zealand.
yeah,
It's actually crazy. Like
yeah,
this guy's running a multi-billion-dollar organization, and he's
yeah,
from going into a college on the North Shore. Like it's just a kid that had a dream to go play basketball in America, and all of a sudden now he's running one of the biggest franchises in the world. And
yeah,
for me, that would be to follow in someone like him's footsteps would be incredible.
Cool, man. The Brooklyn Nets. Hey, he's made some big calls too. He's signed and traded
Yep.
some big names. So, and he's put together a good team. So, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's a brutal job, man. Like the
Yeah.
NBA, it's brutal and it's very unforgiving with their fan bases. And like he's been there, I think 12 years as the GM. So
Wow.
for someone to be there that long in a role like that, he's obviously got the trust from his ownership group and those above him and the board. So, he's doing a good job. And, I've been fortunate enough to spend some time around him and he's very well respected up on that side of the world. I can promise you that. Certainly talking to people, they speak very highly of him.
Oh, man, that's awesome.
Mm.
That is awesome to shine a light on a Kiwi like that. I know a little bit about Sean Marks and I knew he was the GM, but to hear it through your eyes, just the scale of what he's actually achieved over there, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool, man. Oh, bro, I really appreciate you sharing a little bit of your story. The whole heart
No,
behind this podcast is hopefully it encourages others.
absolutely. Oh, happy to be on it, and wish you well as well. I mean, you're shining the light on things that aren't easy. The
It's not
transition's
it.
not always easy.
Yeah. And I appreciate it because we've had guys who have come on, guys and girls who have started businesses, gone into broadcasting, done really awesome roles in the corporate world. But it's really cool to pick your brain on what it actually looks like going back into sport, which I think we romanticize.
Yeah,
But like you said, you're working harder than anyone. So
yeah, yeah. Trying to.
appreciate it, man.
No, awesome. Good to meet you again.
You too.